Hello, everyone. Welcome again to this edition of the day's talking points. In the world we are in today, lots of things are happening. Definitely, you shouldn't be surprised. The news is moving fast and things are happening. And this is just to get you in sync with what is going on. And if you are not updated, you will be left out. And suddenly you wake up one day and everything is going on around you and you don't know why. And on my channel, we'll just be talking about this news. And today we'll be discussing about uh, Trump's visit to Trump hosting the king and the queen at the White House. And also we'll be talking about uh, the former FBI director. He has been indicted again. And US Iran talks, the war is still on. Nobody has forgotten. Is there? If you have forgotten, it's still happening. And latest news is that it's stalled again. And the crisis in the Middle East is causing all sort of problem, high energy prices and a lot of things. And I just wish that war will come to an end. And also we'll be discussing about Canada's spring economic and physical update. And Bank of Canada held their rate steady at 2.25%. And also we'll be talking about how Health Canada has approved the first generic Ozempic. And that's what we'll be discussing today, and definitely promises to be an exciting one. And first on the list is King Charles. King Charles has come all the way from England to pay Donald Trump, the United States, a visit. And we all know how historic that is because, right, United States are celebrating their 258th year of existence. And definitely, those are one of the reasons why the king is in the United States. And it's a four-day state visit from April 27th to April the 30th. And today is the 29th. Interesting. 3 days already gone. And according to history, according to reports, according to everything, said the first British monarch to visit US in nearly 20 years. And it's first of Trump's second presidency. And it's truly historic because this is 258th anniversary, birthday, or whatever you want to call it, of the United States. So definitely some special get. And according to Trump, there are a lot of plans set aside for this special day, 250th. Wow, that's a big one. And we're keeping our fingers crossed. And as you all know, UK and the US, they have this special relationship. They are partners. And right from the beginning, some people will say United States got their independence from the United Kingdom, and they've had this close relationship, more or less like a brother-sister relationship in their dealings, economy-wise, military-wise, in different facets of their life. Have that partnership. Even the sport-wise, since they are way apart, because in the United States, baseball, basketball, it's more popular, but in UK, soccer is more popular, which they call football. But in the United States, it's called American, but something different. So these two countries have had way important, special relationship. Despite their political tensions, definitely, because with all these politicians, once one is either you're a conservative or you're a liberal, and the moment in the government in the UK and the US, you have different leaders with different ideologies, then there will always be some controversy here or there. And funny enough, they've been matured in the way they've been dealing with themselves. And they've been diplomatic with things going on around. And Part of the king's visit was his speech to Congress, where he laid out their common goal, their aspirations, what they've been able to do together. And according to history, according to reports, King Charles had become only the second British monarch to ever address the U.S. Congress. And from his speech, it was very interesting. And they all politicians, he got a lot of multiple standing ovations for what he said and how he said it. And according to his speech, it depends on your own perspective. Some saw it as a rebuke to the president, some saw it as it's just we're all different. We all have our own different ways of thinking, different way of doing things, and that's how he saw it, and he laid out everything. And according to what he said, in summary, he said he warned against isolationism, and basically he was just telling the US not to pull away from the world. And for Trump, it's America first, and he feels things should come to the United States, and definitely, if we look at it, everybody's fighting for their own country. If you are not fighting for your country, I don't know what you are doing as a leader. So basically, he doesn't want the United States to pull away from the world and to get involved in everything. As you all know, Trump has been tariffing all these countries here and there. And another one, he urged continued support for Ukraine. And we all know the predicament Ukraine are right now with their war against Russia. It's been consuming lots of money, a lot of lives, and to me personally, this war should come to an end. And these politicians, to me, seems they don't even want the war to come to an end, because to some extent, they are making it so difficult and so hard. And that's why I remember when Trump was doing his campaign, he was saying immediately he gets in, he's going to solve it. And I think along the line, he discovered that there are more people who have a stake, who have something to gain from this war, because I don't know why war will keep on going and thousands of people are dying every day. Not good. Well, the king said he urged continued support for Ukraine. For me personally, I don't support the war, and I would never support any of these countries. The most important thing is it should come to an end. The king also highlighted NATO and global cooperation, and as we all know, after the Iran war, the United States are threatening to pull out of NATO, not to support NATO, because when he needed them, they were not supporting, they were not doing anything. And stylishly, the king is calling for global cooperation and everybody to work together, even with NATO. Well, good one. At least politicians need to be talked to, because politicians, to me, it seems they have something to gain from all these things. So he highlighted NATO and global cooperation. Also, he talked about climate change and shared democratic values. Definitely, they're all democracies and different ways of doing what they do. And since they are of the same shared values, they should cooperate. That's what he wants, cooperation. Most important thing. Talked about climate change. To me personally, I'm not interested in that. And some people were even saying he diplomatically and disagreed with Trump, with some Trump policies without directly attacking him. Oh, that would have been a disaster if he should have done that. So, good one for him. And after that, they had a state dinner at the White House. And it was held at the White House in formal attire. Everybody was well dressed. People were invited. Interesting one, full of luxury and gold. Trump loves these gold plated stuffs, and Some high-profile guests were invited: politicians, business leaders, some journalists, and they were all they were all there. And jokes, friendly remarks, just what they all do as politicians sit down and say that. And at the end of the day, it was full of vibes and very interesting. And at the end of the day, uh, looking at everything, uh, the agreement is that strong US UK alliance, they should be cooperation. They should cooperate in security and defense, and concerns about Iran's nuclear ambitions. And there are differences on the Iran conflict, climate policy. You all know the conservatives, they don't believe in all that. And US leading towards isolationism. So he played it well. He did his part. He said what he was able to do. And at the end of the day, it was an interesting one. And a good one. They are all friends. And it's good that they are all friends who are ready to share their opinions and say, well, but definitely they can't go against themselves seriously. No doubt. I knew that was what was going to happen. And definitely, the king was able to make it a fun one, and good one for them. Good one for them, and good one for them. And at least everybody had a good time, and everybody ate, drank, and did everything. And that's a good one for them. And it could be kudos to the president for hosting the king, and kudos to the king for coming on with his queen also. And moving on to the next one about Comey. And according to reports, former FBI director James Comey has been indicted again. Remember, he was initially indicted with some of the stuff that he did, because way back from the beginning, there was some magic that he displayed, because basically the Democrats, they didn't like him, the conservatives didn't like him, because Hillary Clinton still believed that what he did then hampered her from winning the White House, the presidency, the elections. And also, the conservatives believed that had some things to do to spy on Trump's campaign. So, according to reports, Jim Comey has been indicted again, this time over a social media post. Prosecutors say that threatened Donald Trump. As we all remember, he's putting of stones the 8647, and to many people that meant a lot. But to him, he said he saw the stones there, but a lot of people know what that means. And if you remember his post in 2025 on his Instagram post, he was putting some seashells and arranged it as 8647. And they interpret it like this: 86 is a slang for get rid of. And 47, obviously Trump as the 47th president. So prosecutors argue that this is a code threat against the president. And he's facing 2 federal counts, threatening the president, sending that threat across state lines via social media. And if convicted, penalties will be serious, potentially years in prison. And it's going to be a tough one, and we're going to see how that's going to play out. And so Comey surrendered and appeared in federal court on April 29. He was released without special conditions, and a future date is expected. And the case has been tied to North Carolina. And according to Comey's defense, he says the post was not a threat. It's just a cool photo he didn't think through. He said he deleted it after the backlash and he denies any intent to harm anyone. And his lawyers also argue that the case is politically motivated and it violates free speech protection for some. And that's the question. Is that a threat or what? Because putting that down, truly free speech is allowed, but there's some things when it becomes a threat to me, that's something else entirely. And this is the second indictment. You remember last year he was also indicted, accused of lying to Congress. That case was dismissed due to legal procedural issues. It's always a tough one, no doubt. And because this guy has been prosecuted before or indicted before, and it's been suddenly done again. Now the question is it politically motivated? Because no doubt Trump isn't happy with all he did before Trump was finally in. And according to reports, they were spied upon. Lots of shenanigans happened then. And some people are seeing it as political retaliation against a long-time Trump critic. And he too, he hasn't kept quiet. He has been saying all sorts of things. And definitely, and supporters say any perceived threat to a president must be taken seriously. And that's true also. Now, the question now, is it a threat or a political retaliation? And experts are split on this. And some are saying, does this post count as a real threat or it's just political protected speech? Well, it depends on the divide of the eye where you are. That will determine what everybody's saying. Everybody's in their own corner. And that's why nowadays we have all been polarized politically in different ways. And the bottom line is a beach photo suddenly has turned into a federal case. Now it's up to the court to decide whether it was a protected political expression or a criminal threat. The court will decide, and that's how it should always be at every particular time. And another thing is we should also mind what we say and how we say it, because a lot of people have got into big problems and not as much as this, and they spent a lot, no doubt. And also in other news, the case of US-Iran war, we all know how it all started. And Donald Trump, as the head of the government, and the US says Iran will never, ever have nuclear weapon. And we'll also know that for Iran to have a nuclear weapon, that's going to be a terrible thing because they will use it. That's what they say. And nuclear weapon nowadays, it's a crazy stuff. And how do we deal with that? So, there've been a sort of back and forth between both of them, and they have done a lot of things to each other. They've been blockade, they've been counter blockade, they've been bombings, and it's been a tough one. And how they are going to deal with it, personally, I don't know. And the US-Iran talks still remain stalled. They've been talking, and the most important thing is they should talk and reach an amicable solution. And there's a ceasefire, 60-day-old US-Israeli conflict with Iran, which began, you remember those strikes? February 28, 2026. And even though there's a pause in the war right now, there's a ceasefire. Talks are ongoing, and Iran too, they are proving stubborn. And the US, they've blockaded Strait of Hormuz, and the US have counter blockaded, and no ship, sure, Iranian ships are passing through. And this is causing energy prices to rise. I remember seeing my gas prices skyrocketing, and something we've not seen in a long while. And the question that people are divided: should this thing go on, or should just allow them? But leaving Iran to have a nuclear weapon, that's big, big problem. So recent developments, indirect talks have been going on. Pakistan have been trying to serve as an intermediary between the US and Iran. And, Iran has been shooting robot, rockets, bombs, or whatever you want to call it, to neighboring Arabian countries. I'm definitely sure just to push them down and make them to US to soft pedal, because definitely once they are bombing those ones, we talk to the US to calm things down, and it's all strategy. And there's not been any breakthrough over all these talks. And the US canceled a planned envoy trip involving the figures like Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. And Iran's foreign minister Abbas Araghchi has been shuttling Pakistan, Oman, Russia. That's the latest development over this. And the latest proposal from Iran: reopen the Strait of Hormuz, end the war blockade now, and postpone nuclear talks. And the US, on their own, is skeptical, also has rejected it, insisting that on nuclear guarantees first, no path to weapons. And Trump has said Iran can call us and must get smart very soon. And we also saw what happened. The bombing was crazy, and they're trying to be stubborn, but at the end of the day, I just have the feeling that Iran will still fall. So, and the US position is maintain the naval blockade of Iranian ports, prepare contingency, short and powerful strikes via CENTCOM if needed to increase leverage, and no firm timeline for resolution. And on Iran's part, their own stance is blames excessive US demands, unwilling to fully concede on enrichment and nuclear rights without sanctions relief and security assurances. And they have been divided internally on concessions. A no war, no peace statement persists, with mutual blockades in the Strait of Hormuz. And the one, what US is doing right now is a very tough one. Blockade them, and economically, Iran are feeling it. Definitely, they might say nothing is happening right now, but over time, it's still going to show. And over all this, the economic and energy fallout, oil and gas prices surging. They are surging due to disrupted shipping from Hormuz. And historically, 20 to 25% of global seaborne oil goes through the Strait of Hormuz. And gas prices in the US are hitting new highs, broader inflation risk, and warnings of long-term supply disruptions. And the global impact of worst energy crisis since the 1970s for some analysts, and affects critical minerals beyond oil. UAE reported exiting OPEC amid tensions, and the blockade effects. Dual blockades cripple Iranian exports and raise shipping risks. Insurance costs worldwide. Definitely, US blocking is going to affect Iran economically, and globally, prices are really, 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 really increasing. And the broader Middle East fallout is that Lebanon and Hezbollah, spillover fighting, Israeli strike, deadliest day, most ceasefire attempts, and Hezbollah, Israel, they're at each other's neck. Those ones, for me, it's more or less like forever war. And regional tensions still going on. And definitely, it's going to be a tough one. And start for now, but We'll keep our fingers crossed and we'll see how that's going to play out, no doubt, among all these nations. I just pray, I just hope everything works out fine and there won't be any issues. All things will be resolved as soon as possible because energy prices and people are already complaining, no doubt. They are really, really complaining. But we'll keep our fingers crossed and see how that's going to play out. So let's come to Canada and the spring, um, the spring economic and physical updates. And according to Bank of Canada, also they held their rates steady and good one for them. Canada's spring economic and fiscal updates 2026, and today, April 29th, Canada also retained their interest rates at 2.25%. And all this came amid global uncertainty from the US, tariffs, trade tension, the Middle East conflict, and geopolitical risk. A lot of problems worldwide. Things are really happening, and these politicians, they all put out these problems on us. So the Bank of Canada had its target rate, overnight rate at 2.25%. The bank rate is 2.5%. Deposit rate is 2.2%, as widely expected. No change from their meetings. And so from the announcement, these are the key points from the announcement and monetary policy reports. Growth outlook. Canadian GDP growth, little change overall. The quarter Q4 of 2025 contraction, then modest recovery. The forecast is between 1.2% in 2026 to 1.6% in 2027 and 1.7% in 2028. Just minor growth. And the tariff weighs on export investment, consumer, government spending. Housing soft due to affordability and population growth slowdown. Labor market soft. Unemployment is between 6.5% and 7%. And on inflation, the CPI rose to 2.4% in March, courtesy of gasoline and the spike of the war in Iran, and it's expected to hover around 3% in April. The core inflation stable near just about 2%. And higher energy prices from Middle East conflict has been noted to have caused all this. But the Bank of England is looking through the immediate impact unless it becomes persistent, broad-based inflation projected to return to 2% target early 2027. And so the global context assumes tariffs unchanged, oil to be around $75 per barrel by mid-October, by mid-2027, and the global growth rate approximately 3% annually. And so will be Bank of England said they will be monitoring tariffs, the Middle East development, and that they will be monitoring them closely and are ready to respond as needed. And they are committed to price stability. And the hold reflects balancing downside growth risk from trade uncertainty against near-term inflation from energy prices. And also in Canada, the spring economic and fiscal update for 2026 titled Canada Strong for All was tabled by the Finance Minister François-Philippe Champagne under Prime Minister Mark Carney. And it builds on Budget 2025 with targeted investment in productivity, infrastructure, affordability, and resilience, while claiming improved fiscal outcomes from stronger revenues. So for the 25-26 deficits being between 66.9 billion to 11.5, lower than the budget of 2025. And their major initiatives for this spring is Canada's Strong Fund, Canada's first sovereign wealth fund, initial 25 billion seed over 3 years to invest in strategic projects and companies to boost job growth, security, and Canadians get stake and returns on it. Let's see. And major projects office, 21 nation building projects, 60,000 construction jobs, and over 225 billion investment. Defense, industrial strategies, EV push, investment summit, nature strategy. I hope they follow all this through, and that's the most important thing because things are really, really getting expensive in Canada. And also, Canada groceries and essential benefits support for over 12 million Canadians starts June 5. And also the fuel excise tax pause until Labor Day, saving 10 cents per liter, 4 cents per liter of diesel. Development charge reductions, GST relief for buyers, red tape cuts, modular housing. There are a lot of cuts, there are a lot of things they need to do because things are not easy presently in Canada. For me personally, I don't know about you, things are difficult and the government needs to do something about that. And they're planning, there are a lot of things there. They said easier disability tax credit and mobile plan cost reductions, $10 cap on SSA fees, and a lot of fees, a lot of things that needs to be done. So we hope the economy resurrects because right now things are hard and very, very expensive. But we keep our fingers crossed and see how that plays out in the long run because without a very good economy, things will definitely continue to be more and more expensive and tough for people around because not everybody is rich. Not everybody is rich, but everybody is just trying to make things better and easier for them. So kudos to the Canadian government for what they are doing in the case of that. And finally, on the news, health-wise in Canada, Health Canada has approved the first generic version of Ozempic on April 28th, making Canada the first G7 country to do so. And according to the key details, its manufacturer is an Indian drug maker, Dr. Reddy's Laboratories. And this is a generic semaglutide injection, pharmaceutically equivalent to brand name Ozempic. And Health Canada conducted a thorough review and confirmed it meets standards for safety, efficacy, and quality. It is indicated for once weekly treatment of adults with type 2 diabetes to manage sugar levels, same as Ozempic. And the submission was filed in early 2024. Health Canada met its 180-day target review timeline, excluding time for additional data from the manufacturer. So, and according to them, Health Canada, more are still coming. So, thanks for listening. It's been a wonderful one. See you tomorrow.